Hey, what is up, my gaming peeps, and welcome to another episode of Just the Facts with yours truly. Today we will be discussing the potential shocking return of a long-thought buried franchise, and that is Saints Row. Personally, I really enjoyed this franchise. I enjoyed everything about it, from its crazy weapons to its crazy superpowers, and eventually apocalyptic hellworld. But Deep Silver are of course the same guys who made the Dead Island game. So with this announcement, it gives gamers hope as to what's actually happening with Dead Island 2 as well. But more on that later. Anyway, yeah, on with the show. So the last time we actually heard anything from the Saints gang, they were defending the White House from an alien invasion in Saints Row 4. Then taking on Satan himself in Saints Row Get Out of Hell. But then of course we got Saints Row Re-elected, which was basically just Saints Row 4 and Get Out of Hell as one singular game. We aren't really going to mention or count Agents of Mayhem because to me that just wasn't a Saints Row story. Anyway, the open world action franchise with its low grade visuals and tacky kind of South Park meets Archer tone might have aged about as well as a bad penny. But Deep Silver promises that it isn't done with the series or the Saints Row just yet. I'm not sure how I feel about a new Saints Row game. I mean, if you played Get Out of Hell, it basically writes off the Saints Row franchise altogether. In fact, Saints Row 4 did that before Get Out of Hell did. I mean, yeah, I get that Get Out of Hell was like the DLC to like bringing back Earth, but still, it kind of still wrote it all off in those two games. But yeah, because of Saints Row 4, what they did with that pissed off alien destroying Earth and all of humanity. So I'm not really sure where Deep Silver can go with the franchise from there, unless it's a total reboot of the series. But yeah, let's just see what else I found regarding this. So, on a little side note, Saints Row the Third has just arrived on the Nintendo Switch. Saints Row the Third was probably one of my more favourite Saints Row games. But the publisher behind the title has recently tweeted a link to the official Saints Row YouTube page with a promising video stating that exciting things ahead for the Saints, so you don't want to miss out. Now this could mean many things. Fans of the series, as well as myself, have naturally assumed this means another game will be added into the series. But what if we're wrong? What if these exciting things are merely just remasters of the original games on current-gen consoles and the Nintendo Switch? But yeah, as I said, whether those exciting things could include Saints Row 5 for current-gen or next-gen consoles, or perhaps the Saints will merely have a brief appearance in another Deep Silver game, does remain up for debate at this time. But Volition, the developer behind all previous entries of the franchise, is currently hiring for new recruits, with experience in AAA third-person shooters for its next open-world game. So, to me, this means when developers of a previous series are hiring for new recruits, it does usually mean they are working on a brand new and separate title, and or are rebooting the previous title with new voice cast members. Because why else would developers hire a whole new creative team to make a game that they've already got a franchise in? Doesn't really make that much sense, which is why I'm kind of debunking my own theory there of a new game. But yeah, only time will tell. I mean, of course, I'm just throwing in my own theories in there, but as I said, only time will tell, as it's safe to say it's a long way off if they are only in the recruitment phase at the moment. As much as Saints Row has its problems, I'd certainly prefer Volition's next title to be a sequel in that series, rather than a follow-up to, again, that so-called Agents of Mayhem from 2017, which was supposed to be an entry into the Saints Row franchise, but it just felt like Fortnite with cars, and that's really salty on the tongue. I hate comparing games to Fortnite. I mean, with you guys knowing how much I hate Fortnite, y'all know if I compare a game to it, I think it's terrible. And I'm pretty sure anyone else who hates a game and compares it to another game that they hate, you know, it's the same way. But I just completely hate Fortnite, so I used Fortnite as the example. Please do not ask me to play Fortnite on the channel. If you do, yeah, we won't be friends. But funnily enough, we only just heard that a Saints Row movie is actually in the works under supervision of the Fate and the Furious director, so that's F. Gary Gray. Why they brought on one of the Fast and the Furious directors to do a Saints Row movie, I'll never know. Unless there's going to be a lot of exploding cars and car modifications and whatnot, it just doesn't really make any sense to do that. But yeah, I guess they're going with it, so who am I to judge? But yeah, perhaps Deep Silver want to take this time in order to release a new Saints Row game around the release of its cinematic counterpart, which I don't really have a problem with. Movie tie-in games usually have their flaws and a couple of bad choices, yes, as you can simply be playing a repeat of what you've just watched, basically. But take the Ratchet and Clank game, for example. All the cutscenes from the game were from the movie, yes, but the story content in that game definitely filled in some of the gaps and missing content from the movie, which is what made it so interesting to play through. And so many other games have done that. I mean, if you take the Iron Man games that first appeared on the PS2, for example, some of it, yes, that it was a carbon copy of the movie, but the rest of them, the rest of the levels and the missions and what happened in between was basically what we wanted to see as what happened in between those events in the movie. Which is why I do love movie tie-in games, because as I said, it does fill in a lot of those gaps that are missing in the movie. But if the same was to be done with a Saints Row movie game, then sure, have cutscenes from the movie, and have the story content meshed in with crazy dildo weapons and DC Universe Online style superpowers, then yeah, why not? It could definitely totally work. I mean, I could get along with that. It could definitely work for me. Don't know about you guys. Let me know what you think about that. But there is definitely a small but slim chance we could be hearing more at E3 2019 later next month. But I wouldn't expect a guaranteed announcement, because this is, after all, the same publisher that has apparently been working on a sequel to Dead Island. So, you know, Dead Island 2, it's been in complete radio silence for over half a decade. Until now, that is. I do have an episode planned next week regarding Dead Island 2 as well, because while I was doing my research into this, I found an article on Dead Island 2 that basically confirms the developers aren't ready to give up on it just yet. So, win-win there. For all you fans of Dead Island, something is coming, and that's all I can say on that. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you think it's a waste of time to give us a new Saints game? Do you think it's a reboot of the series? Or do you think it will be a movie tie-in game, which is seeming more likely at this point? I, for one, am extremely curious to see where this goes, because I really did enjoy playing the Saints Row games. As a fan of them, I can say it's one of those games that starts with gang warfare and killing every character in sight, and turns into something great like we saw in Saints Row 4, defending the Earth from a pissed-off alien who acted like a 2-year-old not getting what he wants. But there's so much potential that can be done from it. I mean, a reboot would work as well, because if you remember Get Out of Hell, there was 4 different endings. One of those endings was to bring back the Saint, well, bring back everyone on Earth, sorry, but there would be no Saints. And the only person who would have memory of this was Gat. Another one of the endings had you being Overlord of Hell and just ruling Hell and killing Satan. And the 2 other endings, unfortunately, I don't remember them, but I think it was another thing that involved like losing the Saints forever. Which is what brings me back to my point earlier. Like, I don't know where they could go if they did a sequel to that game. Like, maybe a sequel could be a sequel to Saints Row 2 or Saints Row 3, I guess. But to do a sequel to 4 and Get Out of Hell, as I said, with those endings, it just really wouldn't make sense. Because they're not really going to make a game where, you know, it goes off all 4 different ending choices if you've played all 4 endings. So really doesn't make a lick of sense to do that. So I'm thinking a reboot in the series is much more likely. But yeah, as I said, guys, let me know in the comments what you guys think. If you think it's going to be a reboot, if you think it's going to be a movie tie-in, or if you think it's going to be just, I don't know, something completely new or something that follows on from the other stories. I don't know. But anyway, guys, that is it for this episode. Hope you all enjoyed it. Sorry it's a little bit shorter than usual, but there's literally not much to discuss on this matter because, as you know, as I said with Dead Island, this company is extremely secretive and keeps a lid on a lot of things. But I hope you enjoyed the episode anyway, and I also apologise for not streaming Batman last night. I hadn't slept very well in the last couple of days, so I was getting ready to do it, but then I fell asleep. And you know, but by the time I'd woken up, it was 3 a.m. UK time, so I didn't really fancy streaming it at that time in the morning. I'm sure you guys understand. But not to worry, we will continue the game next week, and today we have a new entry into the series. We are finally going to be starting Telltale's Back to the Future, which is absolutely brilliant. It's going to be another 5 weeks of amazing and awesome gameplay. So yeah, obviously stay tuned for that. Next week it will be Batman Season 2 continuation on Friday. Saturday, Back to the Future and another Just the Facts episode. Sunday we'll be continuing The Walking Dead Season 2, so we'll be doing that tomorrow as well. But yeah, on that positive note of the day, let's end this episode. Tune in next week for another episode. This has been Just the Facts with Gamerdude. Happy gaming, and I will catch you all real soon, guys.